Hey everybody, John here, Theology Prepper, where we look at all things theology from a preparedness perspective, just like we would for being prepared for bugging out and things like that, inflation, other stuff going on in the world, our political scenarios. Well, we got to have our hearts and minds and our spirits right with God first, before we can tackle some of those type of topics. So, in wanting to discuss that, I want to start looking through a book with you called Precious Remedies Precious Remedies Against Satan's Devices. I'll get the title up there. I just flashed it, but it's backwards on the screen. I can see that. But it's a Puritan work. The Puritan Thomas Brooks wrote this. And in it, we're just going to talk briefly about some of the chapters. Not going to go through it word for word. You can pick it up. It's definitely handy to read. But the idea is that we prepare for things every day. Prepare to go to work. Prepare to go to school. We prepare to play a game. You read the rules. You find out the strategies involved and how it works. Um, excuse me. It's the same way if we look to overcome sin in our lives and be true and faithful to one another and to God. It is that we prepare to face our enemy. And if you know how the enemy is going to attack, then you should be all that much more prepared for how to counter that attack. And so the first one Thomas Brooks outlines, he says, is just by presenting, this is one of Satan's tactics, by presenting the bait and hiding the hook. So fishing reference, worm on a hook, and the fish goes to, they think, just nibble on the worm and get snagged by the hook. They get caught. What was just a little treat now has resulted in them being caught. Maybe they'll be lucky, catch release, but probably not. Going to be somebody's dinner now. But that's just it. Sin is a tactic that looks good on the surface, but is always hiding a hook, is always hiding something that's going to snag you and take you much farther than you ever intended to go in it. Think about the last time you fell into some type of sin. What was it? What led you into it? Bet you weren't, I don't imagine most people are like, gosh, today I'm going to go out and commit adultery. No, it probably started as a small thing of bait. Oh, there's somebody attractive. Oh, they gave me some attention. And oh, that is flirting a little bit. No harm there. I'm not done. And where does it lead? Where does stuff go? We have to think and prepare ourselves for, what am I looking at and where is it going to lead? We have to be considering within ourselves, what is the end result of things. Sin is going to be tempting. As he says here, sin is but bittersweet because it'll usher in the greatest and saddest losses. Again, the fish on the hook, just a little snack of a worm cost him its life. And that's huge risk. And again, work, school, other ventures, you count the cost. We're told in scriptures, count the cost. Well, what's the cost of different sins? I mean, you go through the book of Revelation, and I'm doing that on another channel, my Humble Theology channel. Please check it out. But yeah, it goes through what is the end results of sin and how is it about to be destroyed at the end. And so should you be mingling with that? Should you be interacting with that, toying with it? And there's calls throughout the first three chapters, the letters to the seven churches, to repent and turn from it, to stop compromising with sin. Because when you do, it's going to pull you down. It is very deceitful. And so that's the lesson for this week, is just be aware that in sin, one of Satan's devices is that something's going to look attractive. Something's going to maybe even seem beneficial to you. A new job, a new resource. The grass is always greener on the other side, but what are you really going to get into? I think about our political situation in the world. Oh, this group, that group, this political party, that political party. If we just got rid of this or that, everything would be fine, and that's our focus. But we don't look at the sins that are just right around us. What's in our community? How are these people even in power? How are our communities being led astray? What kind of businesses and things are going on in our community that even live towards or support those types of actions and functions? We need to clean things up, and we need to look at things from a holistically biblical perspective. For that ends, being prepared. So, looking at things, I always try to do two things on this channel: give us something theologically to look at, but then in a practical standpoint. The practical this week is to look at your pantry. Last time we talked about medical kits. You should always have a medical kit on hand. These days, I want to mention, or today, I want to mention just your pantry. What's in there? Everyone's talking about, well, grid failure because of the summer heat waves, and possibly, war with China, war with this nation, that nation, all these things going on around the world. Well, if these things happen, supply chain goes down. What do you have in your pantry? Is it stocked enough of stuff you can live off of? If the power went out, how much stuff is in your freezer? Do you have a means, electricity's out, to be able to cook it? All these kinds of things. If you really think something in the world's going to happen, and again, just like anything, you do kind of a risk assessment of where you're at and what's going on. And if you really think something like that may happen, how prepared are you for it? Now, it would be nice to stock your pantry before inflation hit. But you can always just, when you go shopping, pick up an extra can of something. You buy a certain cereal, pick up an extra box. Just, some simple here and there, a little bit here and there goes a long way. And you just keep building it. And it's not a pantry where you stock all this stuff, lock it away, and just it's there if something happens. That's part of your routine then. You have an extra can, it becomes, then 2 cans or 3 cans. But then in a couple weeks, you use one of them. But then you replace it later on. So it's always cycling through. You don't have to worry about stuff expiring or going to waste because you are using it. It's a functional pantry, and you're rotating through all that stuff on a regular basis. But that's just it. Again, something to consider from a practical standpoint as we look at what's going on in the world and try to prepare for those things as well. That's it for this time. Hope you like what I'm doing here. If you do, feel free to help support this by liking, sharing, subscribing, leaving a comment, all that fun stuff. And we'll see you again next time. God bless. Bye-bye.